What's up, my friend? Hey, it is Ryan Koral, and I am so glad that you are joining me on this episode of the Studio Sherpas podcast, where my guest today is one of the most profound thinkers of our day, one of the most profound orators. Is that a thing? Orator? Is that how orator? Just kidding. It's me! I'm with you today, and I am very excited about what I'm going to share with you, because it's very near and dear to my heart. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my family. I don't do that a ton on this show. I had an experience this weekend that was just awesome, and as I was thinking through, some of the things that I wanted to share on the show today, this story, it's just beautiful. It is such a fun story, and I want to bring you into that, and I'm glad that you're here. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Storyblocks. Head to storyblocks.com/Studio Sherpas to learn more about Storyblocks video. So if you are new to the show, this podcast is really, my heart behind it is that you would get some takeaways from this, whatever words are coming out of my mouth. Typically, I have guests, and they usually say amazing things. And I think it's through our stories, it's through our learning, it's through our wins, our losses, our ups and downs, and all of those things. Not just like, here's what's going great, but here's where I'm struggling. Here's where I'm having a hard time. It's in those moments that we learn, that we grow, we change, we pivot, let me think, how many other ways can I say that? But yeah, I think you get the drift here. Storytelling is super important, and also being open and having a desire or a hunger to change and to grow and to be more effective with our lives and with our businesses. And in this case, you might have a video business, which is why you're listening or watching the show. And I am so thankful that you're here. So what's up, my friend? Hey, this is Ryan Koral, and you are listening or watching. Why do I have to tell you what you're doing? You already know what you're doing. In case you accidentally stumbled upon, or your ears, or you're listening to somebody else's AirPods or something, this is the Studio Sherpas podcast. My name is Ryan Koral, and I am here to help you in your video business. So if you don't have a video business, then I'm still glad that you're here. And I think some of what I'm going to share with you will be applicable for your I was going to say your other life, not doing video, but the life that you have where you don't do video stuff. Digressing, I don't know. I am very passionate about being all in on something, like knowing what it is that you're after and going after it. I had an experience this weekend. Here's the thing. 16 years ago, my dad passed away. I was 25 years old when it happened, and left a huge hole in my heart. Really, really sad, tough time for me, for my family, and I miss him. I miss my dad dearly. His 76th birthday, I think 76th, would have been this past week, and I was texting with my sister, and we're just making silly jokes and remembering my dad, and I just had a cool moment with her. Well, since I don't even know, maybe early college, definitely early on in my marriage, had always dreamed about having a son. And when I was 29, we had our first child, which was a son, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is the best thing ever. The relationship that I have had with my son is one of the most precious, and I have been very intentional in pursuing a relationship with him, and trying to be wise counsel in his life, and also somebody that's his biggest fan, and so part of what that means is, like, I try to have deep, meaningful conversations. Well, my son is also 12 years old, and I don't know if you have kids or if you know teenagers or kids that are almost teenagers. Most of them, I don't think most of them really want to engage on a my very deep level, especially for lengths of time. So he puts up with me, and I think he does a great job at putting up with me. But my big picture, like one of my dreams in life, is to have impact and influence in his life, to teach him what I've learned in my life are the most important things, and for him to carry that on to his family in the future. And today, for him to practice some of these practices today. Creating memories. Like, I love creating memories. And this weekend, we got to spend a couple hours in the car driving up north. Just him and I went on this trip. And I try to do a trip with, at least with my two older kids, and actually my youngest, I'll start doing trips with her. But I try to do just a little trip once a year, usually in the summer. And it's really to be able to just be together, to not have an agenda, but to be together. So anyway, Evan and I are in this car for almost 2 hours driving up north, talking about all sorts of stuff. I'm telling him silly stories about when I was in 7th grade and embarrassing stories, because I know what it was like to be in 7th grade, and it was not easy. I don't know if you remember 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. Not my finest years, not my fondest memories of trying to fit in, trying to figure out who I was, who I am, who I is, all those things. And feeling alone a lot of the time, and not having a great roadmap for life. My dad, I struggled in my relationship with him. I didn't really like him in middle school. My parents got divorced when I was 12 years old, and I didn't want to be at home. I lived with my dad. My dad raised my older half sister, my younger sister, my younger brother, and I pretty much did whatever I could to not be at home, because he drove me nuts. And then my stepmom, when he eventually got remarried, my stepmom drove me nuts. And, I was a kid in middle school and high school that I don't want to say typical, but I had issues, and I didn't know how to deal with them. I didn't want to deal with them. So I didn't really know how to navigate life. And so I learned a lot from my friends. I looked up to older influences in my life for guidance and wisdom and all that stuff. And sometimes I found good insight, and most of the time I didn't, until, probably close to graduation from high school and all that stuff. I share all of that to say it has been like one of my life's purposes to make sure that whatever I can do, whatever power and ability that I have to have a relationship with my son, to let him know that I care about him deeply, that I am his biggest fan, and that I will do whatever it takes, not that he would be happy, but that he would be whole, and that he would know what is important in life. So anyway, hopefully I'm not oversharing, and this is appropriate for me to be talking about. It is relevant for me because it is such a fresh thing, raising children, and in this trip, that I don't want a moment to go by where I'm not intentional. And when I see in my life that I'm not having the kind of impact that I want to have, whether that's in my personal life or in my business life, I want to do something about it. There is something inside of me that I'm not okay with status quo. I'm not okay with things being like, oh, that's good enough. There's a hunger and a drive inside of me that says, like, I want to strive for excellence. I want to be excellent. I want the things that I'm a part of to be great, and I want them to mean something, not just to me, but I want them to have meaning beyond me. So Evan and I spent this car ride together, and then while we're on this like 60 acres, my friend's parents have this 60 acres of property, and they've got golf carts and mules and go-karts and motorcycles and guns and raccoons, just all sorts of stuff, pickleball, things to do, it's beautiful nature, all this stuff. And we just spent so much time. He drove this golf cart like for hours and was like living his best life. And then we drove home. We had a good time. We had fine conversation. We didn't talk about anything super deep. And I think there's this girl that he's sort of kind of talking to at school. So I'm trying to enter into that conversation for the first time in his life. And and just letting him know that, hey, like this is normal stuff. You're going to have questions, and I'm here to, help you navigate these questions. And no great conversation, I think, from the ride home. And then last night, a day later, I'm cleaning the kitchen. He's kind of hanging out on the kitchen island, and he asked me this question. I'm not going to repeat the question because it's kind of personal, but he asked me a question, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is a question that this is one for me to write down, and for him, it was just awesome. And actually, Tyler, who works with me, I was sharing with him this morning the story, and he's like, dude, like that time that you spent with him, like that was a great investment, because what happened is like you built some trust, and very shortly thereafter, he's like asking you this question. And I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that is beautiful. And that's like for me, like that is, it doesn't get much better than that. So I felt like this pocket of this time that I was intentional about creating with him, these little memories, and him ripping around on the golf cart was for a purpose. And as I was thinking about this episode, the title of this episode, I don't know if we're going to name it this or whatever, but this are you living your best life right now? Like that phrase just kept ringing in my ears. Because, we're riding around on this golf cart. I'm looking over at him, watching him drive, and he is super like focused and this was like day 2, and he's still just like driving. And the trails, like they're not endless. Like we're riding around the same kind of trail, maybe taking a different turn here and there, but he is just loving this. And for him, like in that moment, he was living his best life. And it was really, really beautiful. And I was so grateful to be a part of that. But then as I step back and I think on a bigger level, like, am I living my best life right now? And then my question for you is, are you living your best life right now? And I just feel like, I'm like, yes, I am. Like I'm experiencing, I mean, there are things, there's still like lots of things that I want to do, and I have goals and all this stuff. But I'm like, it doesn't get better than this. Like I'm here with my son, and we're having a blast, and we're laughing super hard, and we're just close. He's not too big to hold my hand and to want to just be with me. He's not embarrassed, by me. And for me, I'm like, does it get better than this? In work, it's like we have ups and downs, and for the past few months, it's been a struggle. It's been really hard these past few months. But in the midst of that struggle, it's been good. It's been so good. And so my question to you is: are you living your best life right now? And granted, this podcast is about. It's about the work that we're doing. It's about being a video producer. It's about, having people hire you. It's about growing your business so that you're charging what you're worth, so that you're charging more, so that you're building something that's sustainable, something that's going to be around for a long time. And I think if we're living our best life, we're doing what we can inside of our business and inside of our personal life to experience that. So a question that we always will ask when we debrief with a client on how a project went, or for myself, when I get to the end of the year or the end of a quarter, personally, professionally, I do this. And I'll ask the question like, what's going well right now? What is going well in my business? And then I ask the question, what's not going well? Like if I'm not living my best life right now, what is the thing that's stopping me from living my best life right now? So I would ask you those questions, like what is going well in your business right now? What's not going well? Third question that we ask is, what's confused? What in your business, what in your life is confusing right now? What is like making you stop or stall or just kind of like be like, I don't know. I don't even know how to deal with this. And what's missing? What is missing inside of your business? As you ask those questions, my encouragement to you is to take this podcast, listen to it now, and then maybe listen to it again when you're just sitting down and you have something to write with, and you can actually do a little bit of brainstorming. As you're asking yourself those questions, see if there's a pattern. Like look at your answers and see if there's a pattern. And I want to give you 3 ways that I think can contribute to you living your best life. Sometimes we're not living our best life right now because we haven't really even defined what does it even mean to live my best life? Like, what would that look like? So if you haven't even defined that, like, let's start there. I didn't even write that down, so maybe I'll share 4 things. One is like, what is your best life right now? Like for me, I know what some of those things are. It's like quality time with my family, one-on-one time with each of my kids, date nights with my wife, community time with my friends. Am I creating experiences? Am I going to bed each night feeling like, yeah, this was a day well spent? So for me, I have some measurables, and I know if I'm getting off track. And then if I know if I'm getting off track, I can pinpoint and say like, oh man, I haven't taken Andrea. Andrea and I are arguing, we're fighting. Oh shoot, we haven't had a date night in 3 weeks. What the heck? Like, let's get a date night, and so I can listen to her and we can talk and hang out, and that's so good and so needed for us. And the same thing with work. Like if something is not going right at work, what are the measurables? What are the things that we have in place that will define, here's what it means. It means my employees are happy. It means our clients are happy. It means our projects are being delivered on time. It means that we're profitable. So these are measurables that help us know, are we living our best life at work? So that's 0. Define, what does that actually mean to be living your best life at work? Number 1, I don't know. Okay, is that number 0 or number 1? Regardless, the next one, focus. Are you getting the right stuff done? If you know what your big goal is, then you need to be able to say, how do I get there? How do I achieve this goal? Right? It can't just be like, well, my goal is to be happy, because you can't just like be happy. Like it's you just can't be it. Like there has to be something. And this is maybe a terrible example, but hey, if I go to Disney and I'm eating like one of those like Mickey Mouse ice cream things, the chocolate coated, I'm happy. So that could be a goal. If you don't have focus, if you're not getting the right stuff done, then you're not going to be living your best life. You're going to be confused. You're not going to have anything to measure against. You're just going to kind of be like, well, it's not working. And like, if you can't define like, well, it's not working, you don't know. So you have to be able to list out like, these are the things that I think will lead to me living my best life. And it's okay to be wrong on some of these, but the most important thing is to take a stab and say like, okay, these are the things that this is how I'm going to start. And for me, like having a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly rhythm, things that I do every single day, things that I do every single week to move me toward that focus, toward that goal. If I don't have anything to aim at, then I'm going to get to the end of my workday. Have you ever gotten to the end of your workday and felt like, oh my gosh, like what the heck did I even do today? What did I get done? Or like a Saturday. Like have you ever had a whole Saturday where you didn't work and then you get to the end of Saturday and it's like, shoot, I watched a movie, but what the heck else did I do? And sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it's totally fine not to have an agenda or feel like you've got to get anything done. But when we're talking about building a business that grows, a business that becomes more profitable, a business where you're doing more passion projects, you have to have goals to get there. And they don't just happen, right? You have to have a clearly defined path on how you're going to get there. So the question is, are you getting the right stuff done? So you have to have daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, we call them rocks here at work. At home, we have a bucket list for the summer, for vacation. I have a personal bucket list. These are things that we've listed out as a family and said, like, let's do this. Let's, if we want to stay at this, if we want to stay in this town next summer, what do we need to do to get there? Well, we need to find a place. We need to figure out a date. We need to, lock it in. We need to save money. We need to, there are a bunch of things that need to happen. So if we're going to stay there next year, I also need to start working on it now versus waiting until next year when the place gets booked up. So my best life is vacationing on Lake Michigan. In order for me to meet that goal, I have to have a plan laid out. So sometimes the plan or your goal, it's one thing. And sometimes it's a project, meaning that there are multiple steps in order to achieve that goal and to get there. So what you have to do is, as you list out what your goals are, you have to figure out, is this a one-off task or is this a project where there's more than one thing that has to get done in order for this to be a completed goal. At work, we call them rocks. We have quarterly rocks where these essentially just are goals. These are things that we are moving toward. And I've shared this before. I'm pretty sure there are 13 weeks in a quarter, and I'll have a goal that's right now I'm finishing a course for content creators, people that want to create courses and training. And I have 13 steps. I created one step for each week, one goal, one thing that needed to happen each week in order to be able to have this PDF, downloadable PDF, have this plan thing that we could pass off to somebody that wants to create courses. So the only way that goal is going to happen is for me to list all of those things out, to break it down and think like, what does done look like for this thing? Otherwise, it wouldn't get done, and I would be frustrated. I'm getting ahead of myself, but number one, are you getting the right stuff done? You have to define the stuff, take inventory of what's on your heart and what's written in your soul that will bring fulfillment to your life, and you got to make a freaking plan to get this done, to get you to that spot. If you're interested, I can share like my own daily and weekly rhythms. Just send an email to ryan@studiosherpas.com, and in the subject, write the word rhythm. This would be a test of spelling, because the word rhythm is not the easiest word to spell. Also, pro tip, if you're playing Hangman, that is a great word to use in Hangman. That one hardly ever gets picked. Hey, I'm going to be right back right after this. Hey, if you want to make more money in your video business, you got to work smarter, not harder. And as I've learned that, I have come full circle in how I view stock footage. Stock footage used to be the worst, literally the worst. Terrible quality and super small selection. There have been so many projects where we just needed one shot of something pretty specific that we didn't get for whatever reason, or the client just requested totally last minute. I'm sure that's never happened to you, right? Well, someone turned us on to Storyblocks years ago, and it has really added to our edits without breaking the bank and without compromising the quality of the production. They have an enormous library of stock footage, and with the unlimited video plan, you get access to everything, including HD and 4K footage, After Effects templates, motion backgrounds, and more. We have saved our clients and ourselves a ton of money, and we saved a couple of projects that needed that one special shot. Use your content anywhere you like, including YouTube. All content is royalty-free, so you can use it for commercial and personal projects. And new content is added regularly, so there's always something fresh to download. Head over to storyblocks.com/studiosherpas to get all the stock footage, audio, and images you need. So, another thing that you can do is to get something like the High Performance Planner. I have talked about this thing multiple times. It forces you to create, well, it doesn't force you to do anything, but it allows you to create your goals for the day. It says what will define success for today. And then there's like every month you kind of reflect, and then you make goals for that month. Awesome practice. I've been doing that almost every day of regular work, and I do it before I open up email. I do it before I try to do it before I get into the office. But if I do get into the office, I try to find a spot where nobody's going to see me, and I try to get this stuff done so that I'm focused. And I'm also thinking about, there's also a spot where you can start dreaming about other projects, things that you can't do right now, but things that are just on your mind. So starts with writing it down. All right, so once you have this list of here are the things that I want to get done, here are the things that I have to get done, and you prioritize them, saying like, okay, this is the most important, this is the least important, then it's time to move on to number 2. And this is all about, can you break down these goals into actionable items? Because if they don't become actionable and it's just a goal of like, make $100,000 this year, but you don't have like a clear plan of getting there, then it's not going to get happen. It's not going to get happen unless you get really, it's not going to happen unless you get really lucky, right? Or just how else is it going to happen? I don't know. But if you say this is the goal and this is the plan, then you are at least moving closer to that thing becoming reality. And then you need to put it into your calendar. For me, if it's not in my calendar, then it's probably not getting done. If you're not using a calendar like Google Cal or iCal, then maybe you have a daily planner or something like that you are inputting in and that you kind of use to direct like your day-to-day things that you're doing. For me, Google Calendar has been a great tool. I'm a big stickler when talking about goals and defining, is this goal, is this like a one-off task, or is this goal a project? If your goal was to create a demo reel for your company and you've got all the clips already set aside and all you need to do is get in there and edit it and the music's already picked, then your goal could be edit demo reel, and all you're doing is like placing the stuff and creating a demo reel. Now, if you want to create a demo reel, but you haven't marked any clips, you haven't picked out a song, you don't have a due date or anything, then what you have is a project. There are multiple steps that are required in order for this to happen. Let me ask you a question. Lots of questions today. Have you ever wanted to do or create like a marketing piece for your team, like for your company, and it hasn't gotten done? Like it's still on it's on our goals list. Well, we realized after years and years and years of having different projects that we want to do and not having a show reel or the fun projects that we really want to do, they just weren't happening. It's because we weren't putting them into our normal workflow. We use Basecamp as our project manager. We weren't putting them in Basecamp, so they just weren't getting done because they were goals. There was nothing actionable. There were multiple parts. There were multiple people that were needed in order to complete these things. So when we wanted a new demo reel, people would be like, well, some client work came up this week and can't do it. Well, if we were to break that out into 13 steps or 15 steps or 10 steps, and we were to say like, okay, John, your job is to find 3 songs. Okay, that's your only job here with this project. Your job is to find 3 songs and let the team listen to them, and we'll pick a song. And Grant, your job is to go through the last 3 projects that we did and pick out your favorite clips, including 1 drone shot, no more, no less, and export those and put them on the drive, and then we'll kind of all go through them and vote on yay or nay for these shots. And then, Andrew, your job, once we approve that, is to lay down the song and the clips into some kind of an order, upload it, share it with the team, and then get feedback via Whipster. That right there, that's how we can go from like having a demo reel on our minds or our hearts forever and ever and ever and it not getting done to like, oh my gosh, like there's only 3 different things that need to happen. And hey, guess what? Everybody needs to have this done within the next 5 days, okay? So now there's a timetable versus, yeah, we want to have this done this year. Oh, crap, it's the end of this year. So, well, let's do it for next year. And that is a rhythm that we had for so long, and I take complete responsibility, but that was not how we were getting stuff done. As soon as we started realizing that, hey, some of these internal projects, internal marketing things that we want to get done aren't getting done, and here's why, and we started putting them into our regular process and assigning a project manager to it, and then assigning a team to it, and assigning a timeline to it, guess what started happening? And like today, we have way more marketing stuff than we've ever had before because we've made it a priority to put into our normal daily, weekly, monthly rhythm of getting stuff done. So number one is having the focus, making sure that you're focusing on the right tasks in order to complete your goal. Number two is breaking down these goals into actionable items, unless they're just one-off tasks. And then number three is, who are you doing life with? Who are you sharing these dreams and goals with? Who is cheering you on? Who is keeping you accountable to the things that you're saying that you want to get done? Because if you're all by yourself, if you're doing all of this work on your own, if you're not asking other people like, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Or, hey, has this been done before? Or, hey, is this totally dumb? Or do you think that this is the best use of my skills and abilities? Then you are in a vacuum and you are going to struggle. It's going to be hard to grow this thing because you are better with other people. I think that's true for all of us. I think we're made to be in community of some sort. And I think there's a lie that says, hey, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, if you started this thing, then you should be able to finish it and you should be able to do it on your own. Like, if not, then how dare you? Like, you don't have what it takes. I think that's total bull. I think that's a lie. And I think we're better together. I think there are, even in my marriage with Andrea, like, I would never think that between the two of us, we have all the answers. I would think that it would be very smart for us to consider hiring a counselor or a therapist to walk us through some of the big questions, some of the big frustrations that we have that we can't seem to figure out on our own. So that's two people right there. If it was just one person, if like I was struggling with something, how dare me think that I can on my own figure this whole thing out? I just think that the way our culture is, the things that we've told ourselves, I don't agree with them. I think that if we open our lives up to other people and we open up our hearts and say like, hey, these are my goals, these are the things that I dream about, and we get people around us, surrounding us, that are for us, that believe in us, that love us, that want the best for us, and that aren't afraid to tell us the truth, that's when we will thrive. That's when we'll be living our best life. I believe in this idea so much so, like, early on when I started my business, I didn't want to be by myself. I knew that if I was bringing other people in to get feedback on shoots and edits, I knew that I was going to be better because of it. I knew that I thought I was good. Otherwise, I wouldn't have started a business. But I was not foolish enough to think that I was the best and that I couldn't improve. I knew that I had a ton of room for improvement. So I did a very good job, if I do say so myself, of putting myself out there and saying like, hey, check this out. Give me some feedback. Let me know how this is. I don't care if you say it sucks. I just want to know like what's terrible about it. What should I improve? How can I make this better? In doing that, man, I have grown as a filmmaker. I've grown as a boss. I've grown as a friend, as a husband, as a dad. There are a lot of blind spots that I have, and I think I've done a great job of surrounding myself with people that have my best interest in mind, which doesn't always mean that I'm right. And I've allowed people, I've given people permission to tell me when they think that I'm wrong. And so hiring employees is a way you can do this. Hiring a business coach is a way that you can do this. Sharing with your spouse. I don't know how many people invite their spouse into their work and ask for feedback, but what a great way to get biased feedback, which just means like, hey, I am okay if you think this piece is mediocre, but what about it? Like, what can I do to be better? If all we're ever after is somebody patting us on the back and saying like, oh, great job, that's not going to push you to the next level. That's not going to help you create something that's sustainable. That's just going to get you by with your friends and your family, your mom that's like, oh man, everything that you create is great. Yeah, Mom, I know you think that, but like, seriously, I need this to be better. So I think we need to train ourselves to be okay with opening up our lives to other people, coworkers, family, friends. Again, I keep saying this, like people that are for you, that have your best interest in mind, people that love you and really care for you. Years ago, I don't know how many years ago, 6 years ago, Andrea and I moved from the city that we were in to a smaller city, a city that didn't have hardly any restaurants, a city that had dirt roads, and we didn't want to move there initially, but we moved. We kind of left this whole lifestyle that we had in Royal Oak to this small town called Clarkson because we wanted to live our lives with two other families that lived up there. And we talked with these families a lot and said, this is our intention. And we know that you guys, we've all sort of talked about this. This is what it's going to look like. We're going to raise your kids. You're going to raise our kids. We're going to do life together, and we're going to share in a lot. We're going to have some hard conversations. We're going to have some fun times and fun memories. If you listened to a couple episodes ago, this is the same group of friends who we almost died on our little vacation getting stranded on an island. Didn't really almost die. Maybe probably did almost die. But this is the same group of friends that we said, we want to do life with you. We'll open our finances so you guys can see how we're spending our money. We want you guys to speak into our lives in very intimate ways that will help us become better parents, will help us become better husband and wife, will help us become better friends. And I've used the same philosophy. I approach my work the same way. If people can speak into the work that I'm doing and the way that I'm leading my team and give me feedback, that is how I will grow and become better. And until you put yourself out there and make yourself vulnerable, like that's really hard to happen. So when I ask that question, like, who are you doing life with? It really is like, who are you inviting into your business? Who are you inviting into your personal life? And into these goals, who are you letting know that you have these goals? If you've got a little, sheet of paper and you've got some personal goals on there and some work goals, but you're not sharing those with people, as soon as you start sharing, they're one step closer to becoming reality. And the beautiful thing in sharing with people that are for you is that those people can keep you accountable. Those people are there to support you. If they don't know what you're striving for, if they don't know what you're working toward other than having a business that works and that makes money, how can they help you? If you have people in your life, if you have employees that are like, hey, I love working with you, let me know how I can help grow this business. If you have people like that in your life, why aren't you sharing with them? Why aren't you sharing the wins and the losses? Why aren't you saying, this is what I'm hoping happens by the end of this year? And then letting those people say, like, cool, like, well, what's your plan? Like, how are you going to get there? And then for you to be like, oh, shoot, I don't even know. I haven't even thought that far into it. I sort of forgot that I should have a plan. I urge you to find a kind of community, to find a person or people that can come around you and that can speak life into you, that can share wisdom with you. And for me, that's where I've found living my best life is actually possible, where I've just said, like, this life is so much better being shared. And I don't want to die alone. I at my funeral, I want people to say nice stuff about me, but I would never want people to feel like they didn't know me. And I would never want people to feel like I didn't make an effort to invite them into my life, because I feel like each one of us has a story. Each one of us has something to offer other people. Each one of us has an opportunity to leave a mark, and maybe that mark is on one person's life. But I would say that if it's on one person's life, that's amazing. To give your life so that somebody else might experience life or might experience a better life, that is incredible. And I know a lot of times we kind of get in this world of like, well, I only have 100 followers on Instagram, or 1,000 or 10,000, but I want 100 or I want 1 million or whatever. And we can get into that trap and that mindset of like, well, once I have, 10,000, people can swipe up, then that's when I'll really start to have influence, because then I'm like influencing 10,000 people. But I will say, I feel like I'm a dad in this moment. I will say that if you give your life so that, or if you open your life up to others and you start sharing with others, you are going to encourage somebody else. You're going to encourage somebody else who's thinking about starting a business or who's struggling in their own business. As you talk about the struggle in your business or the thing that you did to overcome that struggle, you are going to help. And if you help one person, it's totally worth it. I promise it is worth that. So you got what it takes. Your life is worth sharing with other people. And anyway, I hope this was helpful. I hope you do take some time and reach out if I don't know if you've got questions on how I do. I do a lot of stuff. I have 2 businesses. I have Studio Sherpas. I have Tell Studios. I'm also helping Passion Flower Sue. That's another business that I'm working on. And I only work 4 days a week. I don't work on Fridays anymore. And I have a wife that loves me, and we have a healthy marriage, and I have kids that know their dad and know that for the most part, I'm present with them. I know that I think my youngest daughter says that my favorite thing to do is play on my phone, but I'm working on that, right? So I feel like for me, like that, I have been very intentional with trying to be present and trying to have an impact on those around me. And I firmly believe that you have what it takes to. You can do this, but you can't just do it blindly. And if you feel like you are doing it blindly or you're not doing it and you want help, then I want to invite you to investigate the Studio Sherpas community. And the best way right now to do that is I have a free workshop where I'm teaching people how to book better jobs with better clients. You can find out more information if you go to studiosherpas.com/workshop, and that will kind of, if you don't get emails from me already, that will start the process of getting emails, but also getting access to this free workshop. And then there are opportunities to really dive into the Studio Sherpas community. And I would love to see you there, especially if you're just like, man, like I need something else. Like I'm tired of doing this by myself. It's not fulfilling. It's not like I thought it was going to be. There is a better way, and I would love for you to consider the workshop and consider just reaching out and just saying like, hey, here's where I'm stuck. Here's where I'm frustrated. This is what stinks in my life or business right now. I'm continuing to create content, podcasts, web classes, master classes, all sorts of things to make your life, your business better, more effective, more sustainable, so that it can go on, so that maybe one day you can actually pass your business on to your kids or to your dog. Just kidding, half kidding. So anyway, I have said enough. I'm so thankful that you're here, and let me know if this resonates or if I just like droned on for like way too long. Thank you to my amazing podcast editors who I think had to go in and kind of chunk some stuff around on this episode because I kind of went here and then I went over there and then I came back down here. Anyway, I am thankful for them. I'm thankful for you. Thank you for listening and hanging out with me. As always, feel free to leave a review on the iTunes store if you like this. We're super close to 100 reviews, and I'm going to do something crazy like shave my beard or something when we get to the 100 reviews. So leave a review there, and feel free to reach out. hey@studiosherpas.com is a great email for us. And again, like if you want to shoot me an email and let me, if you're interested in seeing what my daily rhythm looks like, then just write the word rhythm inside of the subject line. That's all I got for you. Now, take care, my friend. Keep on climbing, and I will talk to you soon. See ya.